guys, Rob from Georgia here with you, aka VHS82 apostrophe, with my ongoing A Closer Look into the X-Files Season 3, Episode number 18. We're getting there to the end of yet another season. It's pretty awesome. Teso dos Bichos, translated burial mound of small animals. This is an intriguing translation, intriguing title, which does get play in this now that I think about it. It's interesting. First drops March 8th, 1996. Kim Manners back on directing. I think this is John Shibor. I think this is his first only writing credit, I think. Pretty sure. You got Dr. Luton in here, of course, reference back to Val Luton, right? It's kind of an interesting episode here. You do a little reading on it. It doesn't take long to figure out the cast just did not like this. David and Gillian both. This is like the most hated episode they've ever been part of. And I think when you watch it, it's because they don't have a lot. They don't have a lot to work with in this episode. It seems really routine. You have this story that just attempts to be front and center of the characters. More is going on with this story, and there's sort of backdrop to it, I guess, is a way to say. And so maybe that was partly why. It's got an interesting opening. You're in an Ecuadorian archaeological dig site. Apparently a petrol company is going to be laying pipe through, and so good intentions, apparently they are going to remove as much as they see precious, anything precious that they find in this dig. And they uncover an Amaru, female shaman, and all those part of the dig who are local, right, of course immediately are like, this ain't good, we're not touching it, you can't touch it, you've got to leave it there. But the doctor in charge, it's not Bilac. The guy who's actually in charge of that dig, of course, he makes for the betterment of the find. It needs to be in a museum. It needs to be preserved. Okay. Well, he'll come to regret that real quick, right? Even before he leaves the site, he'll have the Amaru there in his tent, and he will be attacked as a lead up to our credits. He'll be attacked, right, by some, say, invisible jaguar of sorts. So it's one of those that unleashes and it's sort of a plague of sorts, curse, I guess, a curse. But the Amaru has a way with the magic and nature, and can utilize that to great effect in plaguing anyone and everyone who's associated or attached to this dig, or both short-term, long-term. What's interesting about this episode, it's not, I mean, if you just listen to how the people thought about it, kind of like going, all right, well, but it's not. What's interesting about this episode, and I guess there's just not a lot to talk about, because in between a certain book and film, this episode comes out in 96, right? So a book comes out in 95, and a film comes out in 97, and that is, of course, The Relic, which got me wondering if the book by, is it Preston and Douglas, I think it is, who wrote the book, and then it actually followed up with a sequel. In fact, I had to go back and revisit this thing. My wife and I watched it the other night. It's a fun movie, Tom Sizemore. And it's, yeah, it's a good cast on that. Anyways, it just made me wonder. I didn't see anything in trivia or anything at all, but the scope of the episode and what we get in the film ultimately, it really feels close. I mean, you got a professor from a museum, attached to a museum that's down there on this dig. You get this this find. It's transported, to the museum, and then all havoc starts to to play out, albeit in a much more refined way, with the film. At least with the Relic, you have a great balance between some great creature effects. Stan Winston, I'm pretty sure he was a part of that, and the characters who were driving. James Whitmore, of course, plays an old guy in that, right? Gotta remember him from like Them and whatnot. But when you just see the scope of the story, the narrative, it just really feels like somebody read the book and thought, well, there's an idea for an X-File episode. Yeah, I could be way off. But when you watch this episode and then you go right into The Relic, knowing the book came out in 95, it makes you wonder, boy. It makes you wonder. And so, another thing then, maybe just that you got so much material, and I'm not saying they copy lifted. I'm not saying any of that. It just seems pretty similar. So maybe there was something in the water. That happens so often. Wasn't it with The Burning? No, I'm sorry. It was not The Burning. The Burning was happening way up north, but down here in the south, oh, geez. Not The Mutilator. It's Maniac. That old movie Maniac. Slasher, right? So that's being made. And somehow there's a cast member from The Burning, maybe, or somehow something really weird happens. They get a member of their cast who was on that other project. And that person just basically says, yeah, it's funny. We just filmed a shot just like this on the other project. And of course, this got the wind of the producers and everything. They're like, what are you talking about? It says, oh yeah, some movie. I don't know if they actually had a real working title, but The Burning, right? Pretty sure it was The Burning. And they're like, and so they freaked out because they didn't want to be making the same thing someone else was making. And so after a few phone calls, the other party sent them their script, so they could not replicate anything even by accident. So this stuff happens, right? You hear these stories from time to time, which are fun. Sometimes something is just in the water, and maybe there was just something in the water at that moment. But it does seem so. I mean, if you got this episode and then you've got The Relic, I'm probably gonna go back to The Relic, just because it's a more refined story, polished story. I love the characters in that movie. But so this episode, you got the use of rats, which you got a lot of great. You think about the wild beasts, the old Italian zoo animals hyped up on PCP. There is so much potential to really get gnarly in this episode, and there's a couple good scenes, but you just left thinking, God, this could have got gnarly. This really could have got gnarly. I almost wish they would have went more of a supernatural sort of, like you would have seen the female shaman just take a ghostly apparitional sort of take, and then just in a Lucio Fulci way, just start wrecking havoc, like The Mummy. If you did borrow from something like The Mummy, I guess. I don't know. I don't know, but there was just seemed like so much more they could have done here to really get grisly, really just punch in the gut a few times. And although there's a scene where Mulder and Scully are running from cats, of all things, thousands of cats. That's the other big thing. Cats are utilized. And it almost foreshadows when those two are running from bees, which is way more effective. I think that shot in Fight the Future is great. And this one it's not a bad story. I think it's just, I think it puts its characters in the background. And it doesn't give Mulder and Scully a lot to work with in this movie. That's how I saw it, at least. Because I'm trying to watch it and figure out why did they hate this so much? Why did they hate it? And maybe that's part of it. It was just, here was a story, and there really wasn't that much to the story, and there was so much you could have done with this story to just really, be a gut puncher. And they didn't, and it sort of feels, I don't know. And the intestines found up in the limb of the tree, I don't know, this is kind of weird. Just intestines from, I don't know. This was weird. It had interesting ideas, but not really well executed in the sense of what this movie could have been. I think they would have done themselves some service if they would have just watched them Dario Argento or Lucio Fulci moves and just got inspired to do some crazy, crazy stuff. I mean, this episode could have been nutty. It could have really been nutty. And it's not. And the scene with the cats, it's a bit of hysterical. It's a little ridiculous. It's just almost funny. It's not meant to be. It's meant to be pretty terrifying. Cats can be terrifying. You get too many cats in a room that are going after you, that could be pretty... For a viewer, it's hilarious, but to be in that situation would be probably absolutely terrifying, if you had no way out, especially. And there is this one effective moment where the cats are trying to dig through this door, and it is with the sound effects and everything, it does build a little bit of tension. But it doesn't really feel... Maybe part of the problem is it doesn't feel like these two are connected with this case in a real way. I mean, they're there and they're asking questions and they're following up leads and they're trying to hypothesize, their way through this. But it just never really, I don't know. It's almost like it doesn't know really what it wants to be, Does it want to be like this novel, The Relic, or like The Mummy? What does it really want to be? What is it achieving to be? And it just, maybe this is one of those rare episodes that just kind of got lost, through some of this stuff. And it was an exercise to get it done. But, you get it done and it's a wrap, and it's, there are better episodes coming down the pike. And so, not every episode is going to be, the one you go back to a million times. It doesn't work like that. And so, it's not the most terrible thing to have a bad day, even on something as great as the X-Files. I mean, and this one, like I said, this episode's not the worst. It just sort of left you wondering, boy, you could have done something a little more. I don't know. But if you're in the mood for a good double feature, though, watch this episode and put on The Relic, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's actually pretty interesting. I'd like to know, boy. Then again, like The Burning and Maniac, maybe perhaps it's just one of those things where something is in the water. I don't know. And everyone's drinking from it, getting similar ideas. It happens. So, let's see here. Hell Money is up next. I don't have thoughts right into my mind. I can't remember that one, but once I plug it in and visit it, perhaps I'll remember that one. That one sounds, yeah. Anyways, so we'll just wrap it up here. And as always, my Bills are Monday night, so go Bills. Hopefully they do well.
This is not a dream. Not a dream.
We might be useful to you.